Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope you all are fine. It's me Nabila Mushtaq Ali. Today I deliver my fourth lecture and my fourth lecture topic is biogeochemical cycle. Now I'm moving to the next page to start the lecture. Let we go. Biogeochemical cycle. The term biogeochemical cycle is derived from bio means biosphere, geo means the geological components, and chemical means the element that move through a cycle. A biogeochemical cycle or an inorganic organic cycle is a circulating or repeatable pathway by which either a chemical element or a molecule moves through both biotic biosphere and abiotic lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere components of an ecosystem is called as biogeochemical cycle. Types of biogeochemical cycle. There are two basic types of biogeochemical cycle. Number one is gaseous, number two is sedimentary. The classification based on the primary source of nutrients into the ecosystem. Now I am going to briefly describe you the types of biogeochemical cycle. Number one is gaseous cycle. In gaseous cycle, the main pool of nutrients are the atmosphere and the oceans. The gaseous cycle are distinctly global. The gases most important for life are nitrogen, oxygen and carbon dioxide. These three gases in stable quantities of 78%, 21% and 0.03%. The gases are the dominant component of the Earth atmosphere. Number two is sedimentary cycle. In sedimentary cycle, the main pool is the soil, rocks and minerals. The minerals element required by living organisms come initially from inorganic sources available from occurs as salt dissolved in the soil, water or in lakes, streams and seas. The mineral cycle varies from one element to another, but essentially it consists of two phases, the rock phase and the salt solution phase. The mineral salt comes directly from earth crust through weathering. The soluble salt then enter the water cycle with water. The salts move through the soil to stream and lake and eventually reach the seas where they remain indefinitely. Other salt returns to earth crust through sediment. After the types of biogeochemical cycle, now I am moving to the classes of biogeochemical cycle. There are six types of biogeochemical cycle. Number one is carbon cycle, number two is water cycle, number three is nitrogen cycle, number four is oxygen cycle, number five is phosphorus cycle, and number six is sulfur cycle. Number one is the carbon cycle. It is one of the biogeochemical cycle in which carbon is exchanged among the biosphere, geosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere and pedosphere. Carbon, a basic constituent of all organic compounds, is involved in the fixation of energy by photosynthesis. Carbon is so tied to energy flow that the two are inseparable. All green plants use carbon dioxide and sunlight from photosynthesis. Carbon is thus stored in the plants. The green plants, when dead, are buried into the soil that get converted into fossil fuels made from carbon. These fossil fuels, when burnt, release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Carbon contained in the form of carbon dioxide is produced, that is stored in the form of fossil fuel, coal and oil, and can be extracted from various commercial and non-commercial purposes. When factories use these fuels, the carbon is again released back in the atmosphere during combustion. The major sources of carbon are biomolecules in organic form, carbon oxides in the atmosphere, the organic form of carbon in soil, fossil fuel and sedimentary rocks, dissolved compound in oceans. The source of all carbons, both in living organisms and fossil deposit, is carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and the water of Earth. Photosynthesis draws carbon dioxide from the air of water into the living component of the ecosystem. Just as energy flows through the grazing food chain, carbon passes to herbivores and carnivores. Primary producers and consumers release carbon to the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide by respiration. The carbon in plant and animal tissue eventually goes to the reservoir of dead organic matter. Decomposer release add to the atmosphere through respiration. Some of these carbonates dissolve back into solution, and some become buried in the bottle mat at buried depth when the organisms die. Because it is isolated from biotic activity, this carbon is removed from cycling. On incorporation into bottom sediments over geologic time, it may appear in coral reef and limestone rocks. In this figure, you can see the cycle of carbon cycle. In this figure, you can see the sources of carbon where you get the carbon easily. Number 2 is the water cycle. The water cycle is also known as hydrological cycle. The hydrological cycle is a theoretical model that describes the exchange of water among the atmosphere, lithosphere, biosphere, and hydrosphere. All these also act as a reservoir of water. The various processes such as evaporation, condensation, diffusion, etc. help in the exchange of water among the atmosphere, lithosphere, biosphere, and hydrosphere. The water from the different water bodies evaporates, cools, condenses, and falls back to the earth as rain. As you can see this figure, this is the cycle of water cycle. It is also known as hydrological cycle. In this figure, you can see the interflow and precipitation, condensation, evaporation source. These are the sources of water cycle. This biogeochemical cycle is responsible for maintaining weather conditions. The water in its various forms interact with the surroundings and changes the temperature and pressure of the atmosphere. There another process called evapotranspiration. Example vapors produced from leaves, which aids this process in it is the evaporation of water from the leaves, soil and water produced at the atmosphere which again condenses and falls as rain. The oceans supply most of the evaporated water found in the atmosphere. On an average, 84% of the water is lost from oceans by evaporation, while 77% is gained by it from precipitation. Water runoff from lands through rivers to oceans make up 7%, which balance the evaporation difficult of the oceans. On land, evaporation is 16% and precipitation is 23%. The number 3 is the nitrogenous cycle. It is the biochemical cycle by which nitrogen is converted into several forms as it circulates through the atmosphere, terrestrial and marine ecosystem. The series of processes by which nitrogen and its compounds are interconverted in the environment and in living organisms, including nitrogen fixation and decomposition. Nitrogen is an essential element of life. The nitrogen in the atmosphere is fixed by the nitrogen-fixing bacteria present in the root nodules of the leguminous plant and made available to the soil and plants. The bacteria present in the root of the plant convert this nitrogen gas into a usable compound called ammonia. Ammonia is also supplied to plant in the form of fertilizer. This ammonia is converted into nitrites and nitrates. The denitrifying bacteria reduce the nitrates into nitrogen and return it into the atmosphere. Nitrogen fixation on Earth is accomplished in three different ways: by microorganisms, bacteria and blue-green algae, by man using industrial process, example fertilizer factories, to a limited extent by atmospheric phenomena such as thunder and lightning. Microorganisms are capable of fixing atmospheric nitrogen into ammonium ions. These include free-living nitrifying bacteria, specialized azotobacterial and anaerobic Clostridium, and symbiotic nitrifying bacteria living in association with leguminous plant, and symbiotic bacteria living in non-leguminous root nodule plants. Example Rhizobium as well as blue-green algae. Example Anabaena and Spirulina etc. The free nitrogen of hydrogen combined with hydrogen of two forms molecules of ammonia NH3. The process of fixation required as considerable energy. To fix 1 gram of nitrogen, nitrogen fixing bacteria associated with the root system of the plant must expend about 10 gram of glucose, which is a simple sugar produced by the plant in a photosynthesis. Number 4 is the oxygen cycle. Oxygen cycle: circulation of oxygen in various forms through nature. Free in the air and dissolved in water. Oxygen is second only to nitrogen in abundance among uncombined elements in the atmosphere. Plant and animal use oxygen to respire and return it to the air and water as carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is then taken up by algae and terrestrial green plant and converted into carbohydrates during the process of photosynthesis. Oxygen being a byproduct, the water of the world are the main oxygen generators of the biosphere. Their algae are estimated to replace about 90% of oxygen used. Oxygen is involved to some degree in all other biogeochemical cycles. For example, over time, detritus from living organisms transfer oxygen containing compounds such as calcium carbonate into the lithosphere. The major source of free oxygen that support life is the atmosphere. There are two significant sources of atmospheric oxygen. One is the breakup of water vapor through a process driven by sunlight. In this reaction, the water molecules are dissociated to produce hydrogen and oxygen. Most of the hydrogen escapes into space. If the hydrogen did not escape, it will recombine with the oxygen to form water vapor again. The second source of oxygen is photosynthesis, which has been active only since life began on Earth. Oxygen is produced by photosynthesis, autotroph, green plant, algae, and photosynthetic bacteria, and consumed by both autotrophic and heterotrophic in the process of cellular respiration. Because photosynthesis and aerobic respiration involve the alternate release and use of oxygen, one could seem to balance the other, so no significant quantity of oxygen could accumulate in the atmosphere. In photosynthesis, the freed oxygen is split from the water molecule. The oxygen is then reconstituted into water during cellular respiration in both plant and animal. Part of the atmospheric oxygen is reduced to ozone by high energy ultraviolet radiation. Ozone is an ambivalent atmospheric gas in the stratosphere 10 to 40 km above Earth. It shields the plant from biologically harmful ultraviolet radiation. Close to the ground, ozone is a damaging pollutant, cutting visibility, irritating eyes and the respiratory system, and injuring or killing plant life. In the stratosphere, ozone is diminished by its reaction with human-caused pollutants. In the troposphere, ozone is born from the union of nitrogen oxide with oxygen in the presence of sunlight. Number 5 is the phosphorus cycle. The phosphorus cycle is the process by which phosphorus moves through the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and biosphere. Phosphorus is essential for plant and animal growth, as well as the health of microbes inhabiting the soil, but is gradually depleted from the soil over time. The main biological function of phosphorus is that it is required for the formation of nucleotides, which comprises DNA and RNA molecules. Specifically, the DNA double helix is linked by a phosphate ester bond. Calcium phosphate is also the primary component of mammalian bones and teeth. Insect exoskeletons, phospholipid membrane of cells, and is used in a variety of other biological functions. The phosphorus cycle is an extremely slow process as various weather conditions, example rain and erosion, help to wash the phosphorus found in rocks into the soil. In the soil, the organic matter, example plant and fungi, absorb the phosphorus to be used for various biological processes. In moist soil, only a small fraction of the total phosphorus is available to plants. The major process regulating phosphorus availability for net primary production is the internal cycling of phosphorus from organic to inorganic from nutrient cycling. In marine and freshwater ecosystem, the phosphorus cycle moves three states: particular organic phosphorus, dissolved organic phosphates, and inorganic phosphate. Organic phosphate are taken up quickly all forms of phytoplankton which is turned are eaten by zooplankton and detritus feeding organisms. Zooplankton may excrete such phosphorus daily as they store in their biomass, returning it to the cycle. Phosphorus is often the limiting nutrients or nutrients that is most scarce and thus limit growth in aquatic ecosystem. When nitrogen and phosphorus from fertilizer are carried in runoff to lakes and oceans, they can cause eutrophication, the overgrowth of algae. The algae may deplete oxygen from the water and create a dead ozone. Weathering. Since the main source of phosphorus is found in rocks, the first step of the phosphorus cycles involves the extraction of phosphorus from the rocks by weathering. Weather events such as rain and other sources of erosion result in phosphorus being washed into the soil. Absorption by plants and animals. Since once once in the soil, plants, fungi, and microorganisms are able to absorb phosphorus and grow. In addition, phosphorus can also be washed into the local water systems. Plants can also directly absorb phosphorus from the water and grow. In addition to plant, animals are also obtain phosphorus from drinking water and eating plants. Return to the environment via decomposition. When plants and animals die, decomposition results in the return of phosphorus back to the environment via the water or soil. Plants and animals in this environment can then use the phosphorus and step 2 of the cycle is repeated. Human impact on the phosphorus cycle. Humans have had a significant impact on the phosphorus cycle due to a variety of human activities, such as the use of fertilizer, the distribution of food products, and artificial eutrophication. Fertilizer can containing phosphorus at the phosphorus level in the soil and are particularly detrimental when such products are washed into local aquatic ecosystems. When phosphorus is added to water at a rate typically achieved by natural processes, it is referred to as natural eutrophication. A natural supply of phosphorus over time provides nutrients to the water and serve to increase the productivity of that particular ecosystem. When level of phosphorus are too high, the overabundance of plant nutrients serves to drive the excessive growth of algae. However, these algae die or form algae blooms, which are toxic to the plants and animals in the ecosystem. Thus, human activities serve to harm aquatic ecosystem whenever excess amount of phosphorus are released into the water. Number 6 is the sulfur cycle. The sulfur has both sedimentary and gaseous phases. Sulfur is tied up in organic and inorganic deposits released by weathering and decomposition terrestrial ecosystem in salt solution. The gaseous form of the cycle permits sulfur circulation on a global scale. Sulfur scale Circulation of sulfur in various forms through nature. Sulfur occurs in all living matter as a component of certain amino acids. It is abundant in the soil, in protein, and through a series of microbial transformations end up a sulfate usable by plants. Sulfur enters the atmosphere from several sources. The combustion of fossil fuels, organic eruption, exchange at the surface of the oceans, and gases release the decomposition. It enters the atmosphere initially as hydrogen sulfide, which quickly interacts with oxygen to form sulfur dioxide. Atmospheric sulfur dioxide, which is soluble in water, is carried by to the surface in rainwater as weak sulfuric acid. Whatever the source, sulfur in a soluble form is taken up by plants and incorporated through a series of metabolic processes starting with photosynthesis into sulfur bearing amino acids. Excretion and death carry sulfur from living material back to the soil and to the bottom of ponds, lakes and seas where bacteria release is a hydrogen sulfide or sulfate. One group, the colorless sulfur bacteria, reduce hydrogen sulfide to elemental sulfur and then oxidizes it to sulfuric acid. Green and purple bacteria in the presence of light uses hydrogen sulfide during photosynthesis. Best known are the purple bacteria found in salt marshes and in mud flats of estuaries. These organisms can transform hydrogen sulfide into sulfate, which is then recirculated and taken up by producers or used by bacteria that further transform the sulfates. Green bacteria can transform hydrogen sulfide into elemental sulfate. Sulfur-containing proteins are degraded into their constituent amino acid by the action of a variety of soil organisms. The sulfur of the amino acid is converted to hydrogen sulfide by another series of soil microbes. In the presence of oxygen, hydrogen sulfide is converted into sulfur and then to sulfate by sulfur bacteria. Eventually, the sulfate becomes H2S. Hydrogen sulfide rapidly oxidizes to gases that dissolve in water to form sulfurous and sulfuric acid. These compounds contribute in large part to the acid rain that can kill sensitive aquatic organisms and damage marble monuments and stone buildings. The global sulfur cycle. The gaseous phase at the sulfur cycle permits circulation on a global scale. The annual flux of sulfur compound through the atmosphere is of the order 30 into 10 raised power 12 gram. The atmosphere contains not only sulfur dioxide and hydrogen sulfide but also sulfate particles. The sulfate particles become part of dry deposition, the gaseous form combine with moisture and are transported in precipitation, wetfall. The oceans are a large source of aerosols that contain sulfate. However, most are deposited in the oceans, are precipitated and dry. Dimethyl sulfide is the major gas emitted from the ocean that is generated by biological processes. Estimate of 16 into 10 raised power 12 gram make it the largest natural sources of sulfur gases released to the atmosphere. Volcanic activity also contribute to the global biogeochemical cycle of sulfur. Major events such as the eruption of Mt. Pinatubo in 1991 released on the order of 5 into 10 raised power 12 to 10 into 10 raised power 12 gram of sulfur. When volcanic activity of averaged over a long period, the annual global flux is of the order 10 into 10 raised power 12 gram of sulfur. Human activity play a dominant role in the biogeochemical cycle of sulfur. Importance of biogeochemical cycle. The evolution of synthetic chemistry of the planet Earth is remarkable. In particular, the ability to stabilize relatively weakly connected atoms with what we call chemical bond have given a huge scope to the development of biology. We are constantly learning from these examples and developing chemistry correspondingly. The complex nature of biological structure and their finely turned energetics can give amazing insights into the future possibilities for molecular chemistry evolution. Furthermore, relatively weak bonding force can be used in concern to create remarkably robust structure, including many of the Earth creatures. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you like it. If you have any question, then ask me in the comment section. For more videos, to subscribe the channel. Thank you.